2023 budget at 3:03. Take it away, Mike.
All right, thank you, everybody. I think the first one I sent out early in the email said Monday, but it was already Tuesday, so change it to Wednesday. Format is the same as the last one, just to reset where we're at. This would be our third budget meeting. Today is September 7th, Wednesday. What do you want to do? I know we have another one scheduled for Monday at 1. Does anyone want to meet again before?
Is this really our third though, Mike? Wasn't the first one? Weren't we off on some other thing?
Yeah. Yeah,
So this is really the second.
yep.
Yeah.
No, this is the third one because our first meeting was scheduled for July and we didn't hold it. We had one on the.
We did housing in July.
We did housing. I think we did, yeah. So anyways, what do you think about Monday? Do you think you'll be ready Monday to do a preliminary, or do you want to reschedule Monday's 1 o'clock meeting? And
Oh, Monday before the council meeting?
yeah, I mean, it's Wednesday today, so we don't have a lot of time to.
Why don't we wait till we're to the end of this meeting? We can decide how far we get today.
All right, which will be about an hour from now, right?
Have no clue.
Well, let's try to do that because it is nice out. So, I've had a lot of questions from Marcia and others on bonds. So let's talk about that for a brief minute. With the bond package we're looking at, we're still missing quite a bit of pertinent information to make an informed decision on what you want to do for bonding. So again, the way I set this up for each project was I looked at and this is in your packet, it's kind of small so you can look at it in your packet. This would be page 2. The way I set it up was I've set the bond issues for the amount that you have approved, which was the gross amount of the project. And so we do have a couple opportunities that I know of right now to reduce the level of bonding. And one of them comes into play when we look at, I'm going to go to page 4 in here. And what page 4 talks about is there's up on the upper left, it talks about, see if I can make this bigger. These are the sewer project related bonds. The road improvement bonds, now remember, the sewer extension, we were looking at $2.5 million for the overall project cost. And we were using the ARPA money and the grant money to pay for basically the engineering and whatever change orders we thought might come through. So we're looking at 2.1 million, because at the time we didn't want to carry the county's cost, and we wanted to bond for it. So that one, we're still trying to figure out what our total cost is going to be. And now I think everyone's aware we had some change orders on that. I did talk to Phil this afternoon, and I said, where are we at with the change orders? In the email that I sent to you last week, there were 3 sets of minutes in there that listed the items we're waiting for change orders. One of the big ones is the curbing and the things that go with that. There's additional engineering, there's additional observation, there's things like catch basins, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we've talked about. We've asked the contractor for what are those numbers going to be. We're still waiting for that. So we're not going to have that number tomorrow. We hope to have it as soon as we can because I want to be able to submit some of that data so I can I can do 2 things. I can document what we spent for the sewer, that's eligible cost under the ARPA money, and then submit what's soil and water conservation for reimbursement for the storm sewer portion of it.
When did you ask them
A week ago.
for these changes?
Phil's been on them
Those things were started a long time ago.
yeah,
No.
but they're not done with them either.
But the change order on the curbing is the county's nickel, and the county is going to pay for that immediately, correct?
They'll pay for it as soon as we can get the number. Right now, our
But I
best.
mean, it's not a
Yep.
carryover till 24
It's not a
or
carryover
something.
for us. They're going to pay for it. They've agreed to do that. But we need to know what the number is. Our best guess when we did it was about right around 130,000. You know, we had change orders for signage of about 8, and then we've got a bunch of different things for sidewalks and sprinklers and driveways and manhole covers and all kinds of little things like that. We're still waiting for them. So we're in that 150 plus range. There'll also likely be some additional engineering. I'm certain that Bolton Mink will come back and say it's required additional effort on our part beyond what we had planned for, because they're so far, because they're not done.
But we can charge that back, or most of it back to the county, right?
For the curb, yes. And so we're trying to split that out. I've asked Phil for that, and I know they're working on it.
Okay.
So,
So is that included in the contract amount now?
no, it is not.
Okay, so then we really don't have to worry about that in the bond issue anyway.
No, not for the
My devious concern is that the penalty clause is tripping every day by day, and
yep,
someone's waiting for, well, when is the penalty gonna be done? And maybe we can take some of those and inflate some of the numbers that are, that's,
not inflate, but we're trying to figure out what those numbers should be. And right now, we're not getting information to make that decision. So we're pressing for that, and when we get it, we'll revise that.
I'm assuming they understand what's coming at them, don't they?
They do understand.
Okay.
You know, and they're gonna push back and say, well, you added different things, we had control issues of the site, stuff like that. And so Phil has gone through, and they're working on that argument right now on how many days extra makes sense, but we're not gonna know that until they're done. Okay? The other opportunity we have when we look at the sewer clarifiers, you know, remember, we had budgeted about $565,710, so I rounded it to 566. That project's gonna fire up here pretty soon, right, Pat?
The end of the month, it's supposed to get going.
So right now, we've got some engineering in there, and we've got some materials that we had to pay for, some painting. Yeah, the
Clarifier, the deals
Yeah,
themselves.
the
all
clarifiers
fiberglass.
themselves. So you'll see about $111,000 of bills coming through on this next meeting. There's 2 payments that they've submitted. That'll come through at this next council meeting for your review. So when I say there's an opportunity, when you look at connection charges, we all know what those are. It's to replace the capital items in the plant. They're not project specific. And so this one just happens to be, we're getting a large number of connection charges when we're doing a project at the same time. But we get connection charges year round, and we actually use those to replace pumps and seals and all kinds of stuff when we do get them. So we knew at the end of July, we would get about $250,000 of connection charges because we knew the people that had to hook up. Now, the unknown on this is there's another group of connections that we don't know when they're going to hook up because they don't have to yet. And so if they decide they change their mind and they hook up, great, we'll take their money. But right now, we've got about, in round numbers, about $245,000 in connection charges we've collected. Most of them relate to this project. We got one like September 1st or 2nd, I think, Shar?
Yes.
So we could use those to reduce the amount of the bond issue for the clarifiers. So that would give you a bond issue of about $330,000.
Well, I think we should.
Yeah.
The bond issue, the interest rate's gonna be higher, so I think whatever we can do to reduce the bond issue would be appropriate. And I think the sewer connections, the $564,000 in ARP and the, what's that other one?
Well, we're
The
talking just about the
SWR.
clarifiers right now.
What?
We're talking just about the clarifier
Well, I'm talking about
portion.
the bond issue.
Yep,
so.
and we've already done that for the, because our total project cost for the sewer extension was about 2.5 million, and we've reduced it down to 2.1, which basically uses up the,
So are we saying that engineering and stuff is $500,000?
it's gonna be around 350, yeah. It's about 18% of the project, total project cost.
I guess I would like to see that from the engineer, because I
That's
think we
fine.
need to reduce this bond issue.
Didn't we have clarifier money in there, Mike? I thought we had some. a fund.
No, we did not. We had zero for it.
I think we had done some budgeting.
We were looking at biosolids. We were looking at transferring cash from the general fund, depending on what we were planning to do for that project. But the point I'm trying to make is you've got an opportunity to drop the 566 bond issue to about 330 at this point. Now, if we get more connections in the next month or so, we can reduce it further. All right?
Why wouldn't we take what's there today and use those funds to reduce, like Marcia's talking
No,
about?
And we are. That's exactly what we're doing.
the sewer isn't in there. The sewer connections are not in that bond issue. That was not, it was not reduced by that. No, but
No, it is not.
it's not.
Because when we did the bond issue, as I said the first couple times, is let's see what the worst case would be, and as we get those collections in, then we'll make an appropriate adjustment. Now, we're still missing information, like I spoke of earlier, for the overall project for the sewer extension on what it's ultimately going to cost. Now, I do actually have some good news that should even make Marcia smile. I was able to secure another $35,000 for our project through Soil and Water Conservation for the storm sewer portion. Because remember, when we did the storm sewer portion of it, we had a pretty good sized gap there. And what we were looking at was if there was any money available from other grants or leftover grants that they're trying to close out, they would get back to us. We talked about that about a year ago now. So what Melissa Barrick at Soil and Water Conservation has assured me is she's fairly certain that she'll be able to allocate us some additional funds for the storm sewer portion, and that amount today is $35,000.
Well, then we need to reduce the bond issue by that amount.
Right, and we'll do that.
Okay.
There's another opportunity for a grant that she's working on that's a little bit bigger, but I'll have more information on that on the 17th of this month, because they're meeting on the 17th to find that out. So there's a little more money available. It could be up to about $100,000, maybe a little more total, including the 35. Just don't have the answer. And again, we would take both of those amounts and use that to reduce the bond issue before we do an issuance.
I have a question. If we did not do that, where does that money go?
The last one, the 100,000?
Where, all these connection charges, where do they go in our accounting system if we do not use that money for reducing the bond?
If you
Where
don't
does it
use
go?
them, they would be used to first make the repairs to the plant outside of what was funded by bonding, and then it would subsidize any it'd go first towards plant maintenance and repairs, and second towards subsidizing operations to get above zero.
So that's not in the general?
No,
Okay.
that stays in the sewer plant.
So how much money, if that money did not come, how much money is there today for doing the things that you just talked about?
$0. We don't have a reserve
I'm
for.
questioning the merit of draining it all to zero and not having any money
But
sitting around for, and I understand the
you're
bond.
doing the
but
clarifiers and you've done the lift stations. I think we can budget for it.
Well, we don't even know what's coming down the road.
I know it, but I think we can budget for it.
Yeah, there's, you got a, multitude of things that can go wrong around that plant, so.
But the major would be the clarifiers, and the lift stations have been done.
Well, one of the
Yeah, well,
things,
you still got a lot of parts in the plant that can fail at any time too, that can cost.
Like $500,000?
Been draining that like,
I think spend a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
I
Well, we
mean,
don't really
You
have-
put wastewater behind it, the numbers fly high.
so, as an example, where did the money for the extra land go? How much did we pay for the guy in the building? And
175, we
That
took that out of the
Already
general
took
fund
care
and
of that.
transferred it.
stole that out of the general fund.
Yep.
So
So,
pretty soon, if we steal and steal and steal, then we're not gonna have any cash laying around.
well, I think to Marcia's point, you would want to budget for it each year. And we do include in the capital a budget for stuff in the plant. It's about $100,000. Problem is, it costs us more than that to do it. The other thing that's coming up that we're just starting to see is we're starting to see meters that are failing. And we have never, since the plant was put together, we have never put in place a meter replacement program. And when I say a meter replacement program, things like when a meter fails, we just go out and buy a meter and stick it in and call it a repair. But what a lot of communities do, and Pat knows this too, is on your bill, if you have a meter on your bill, you pay a meter surcharge. All of you that have Crow Wing Power pay a meter charge for the meter that's on the side of your house for electricity. A lot of communities do that for their sewer meters, water meters too. So I put $1 or $2, so when a meter takes a dump, you have a fund to replace it.
And
We don't do that today.
Don't kid yourself, you're taking it out of the general fund anyway for the sewer.
Yeah, and we are now
Yeah,
for operations.
yeah, so that argument, yeah.
But you could start to build a fund. I know Crosby has a storm sewer charge, because everyone is on water, sewer, and garbage, and so they've got, it's $2 or $3, so when they do a storm sewer, they have a fund to do it, and that
Well,
works
you
quite
could,
well.
we could go with a bond the size you've recommended,
Mm-hmm.
and if a plan comes out where you think we're good for a few years, we could take that money and pay down the debt on that bond
That-
anytime.
Well, you could at the call date, you wouldn't be able to prepay it, but you just wouldn't have a levy for it. And the city did that when the bonds were refunded back in, they had one of the bond issues was from 2008. On the first portion of the sewer, a lot of people paid it up front, and those dollars were used to pay off the bond.
My thought is I would just issue the bond for the big number and stash that money so that it's there for a rainy day.
Well, that's what Tom Swenson talked about at our last budget meeting.
Yeah, well, he talked about
For
roads.
roads,
He
right.
talked about the road side of
This
it.
would be applicable to that, because
Yep.
it's the biggest cash drain
Our roads and sewer.
sewer, so, and if we have nothing there,
Well, you have nothing there now.
checkbook balance is zero, and I don't run
Yeah,
that way at home.
so that's why
I don't-
I did it the way I did with incomplete information. I said, well, what would be the worst-case scenario? Now, the other piece of information we need to make that bonding decision is what are you going to do for assessments? And that meeting is on the 14th, so that's a week from today, on what you're gonna plan to do with that.
You have the assessments in there now, the road assessments on the road bond issue.
Yes, I do, at the
Yeah,
full
so-
amount, but you haven't made the decision.
And I
to
think
do-
the city council pretty much approved it.
Can I ask a question about, because I'm getting questions, how'd you come up with the 5%? If people put it on over time, is that something that could be reduced?
No. We based it on, typically what we're seeing, and Jason Murray can explain this to you too. What we used to do is we used to say, okay, at the time of issuance, we would say we're going to have an interest rate at 2% over prime. Well, what's happened is the same thing that's happened with how you determine assessments. Where'd you come up with that number? That number floats, it changes. So what he's seeing in his practice, is he's seeing that we're tying the interest rate that we charge the people we assess, we tie that interest rate to the bond issue, and they're using between like 1.25% and 1.5%. And when you do the math on this one, it comes out to about 5%. He said 5% would be a good number, would be a fair number for that.
Right.
And that's how they did it.
Generally, it's 2% over whatever you're paying on the bond. I mean,
And that was if you're basing it on the
that's not
prime
set, but,
and the interbank borrowing rate, which, I mean, everyone knows LIBOR is out now, so. They're trying to tie it to a percent, somewhere between 1% and 2% over the bond issue. Okay? So, is that enough on bonding?
yeah, just get the deductions so we can reduce the bond issue.
Yep, and we're doing that, so,
Thank you.
yep. I'm gonna skip over pages
Mike,
5, go ahead.
I don't want that bond reduced so far that it actually hurts us on our cash flow. Okay?
Sure. So let's go to page 8. That looks like this. I took out all the extra columns because we really only care about the last 3 we're looking at. With the changes we made at the last council meeting, we'll go over those in a minute or two. This is what your levy looks like. Your tax rate would be 23.76%. With everything in there, if we take out the things that we'll talk about when we get to page 12, it'd be 22%. And if you leave it like it was last year, the numbers really don't change, okay? So we can understand what those changes between this meeting and the last meeting were, let's go to page 12, all right? And I'm going to look at the top half of that page. At our last budget meeting, if we included everything in there, we didn't make any deductions for anything. We had revenues of about 7.6 million. And then we had a budget meeting and we said, based on the changes we're making, how does that impact our revenue stream for this meeting? So remember, we said, instead of bonding for roads, we're going to reduce the amount of roads we do and we're going to levy for it to the tune of $250,000. That's what everyone kind of agreed on at that meeting. So we added $250,000 to the levy. We removed the skid steer on the snow blower. That comes to $80,000 and $32,000 respectively. So we reduced our levy. Then we talked about the fire department. What would happen if we had a fully staffed fire department? And last year in the budget, we assumed, how many members do we have, Chip? If you're fully staffed? 28, 32, 23? But if every slot was filled? 30. Okay. So what we did when we did the budget last year is we based it on if he was full, if he was fully staffed. And so at that time, they were paying $20 an hour for firemen. Yes. And so what I did is I just used the same number of staff and said, if you raise that to $25 an hour to cover the mileage issue, that added about $16,000, $17,000 overall to the budget. And then when you look at how all of those numbers roll through with salaries, benefits, payroll taxes, if you've got a full-time fire chief, all that, it's about $36,000 is what it comes to. And then I took out the revenue stream for the bonds. And so you get a revenue number of 6.9 million compared to 7.6. So essentially what you're doing is you're trading out bond money for levy. That's the biggest swing in it. Same thing for expenses.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So the 250,000 you're putting in there for a levy, but you're bonding $800,000 for roads.
We are not. I'm taking it out.
You're not going to do a $800,000 bond.
That's correct. I was instructed to take it out.
I guess I missed that one.
Yep. That's why we're talking about it now, because we took it out right here. See, it's in brackets, it's coming out.
I see that
Yep.
you took it out, but I guess I didn't understand that we weren't bonding for the road project this year. You're taking
No,
it out,
we're talking about next year, 2023.
so you're still doing the 800,000.
No, not for next year. We're talking about 2023. We had $800,000 of bond money in there to pay for $800,000 of roads. So we took out $800,000 of roads, paid for with $800,000 of bonds, and we replaced it with $250,000 of levy and $250,000 of roads.
And that came from Tom and Public Works on trying to
Yep,
get by without doing make them last longer, but doing some different things, but we need the money.
So that money's gonna go to account that we can fall back on,
Yes.
accumulate over the years and fall back on when we need it.
But next year, we already have Harbor Lane, and that's probably 300,000.
I don't know is that for sure yet?
we don't know
Well,
that
I'm
yet.
just saying that
Yep.
they're getting the easements and the right-of-ways and all that, and it's,
And so that could change too. Then you would structure a bond accordingly. So you'd have basically capitalized interest and you,
And we don't know what the assessments are gonna affect it.
no. So there's a lot of open things here on deciding what you want to do.
Couple of years, you know, going to Harbor.
And then we did the same, then I did the same methodology on the expense side to get down to, we removed projects, skid steer, road projects by dollar, whatever. So the way you look at this is you say, okay, now we have a new revenue number. Goes down here. And we look at if we didn't have a levy for the fire truck, full-time equivalents, and a replacement service truck, get rid of the Tahoe and get something a little bigger so you can actually haul stuff in it. You take out 227, you got rid of the fire truck certificates, you got rid of the levy for the fire truck. So you're not going to have full-time equivalents for an admin person or a fire chief. You wouldn't have a fire truck, you wouldn't have a levy for it, and you wouldn't have the service truck. Your revenue stream would drop from today's model from 6.9 to 6.03. And you do the same thing with expenditures. I just wanted to show you the difference between what those two would look like, okay?
Mike, I got a question though, and it's walking back. If we had the truck in there, if we had all the stuff in there, so we're at 6.8.
Yep.
Why do we have to levy for 600 for a truck? Because we're gonna pay that off over years, 5 years or whatever it is. So wouldn't we just levy for what our payment is gonna be next year?
Well, you'd have to have a bond issue, so you'd have to issue a bond, then you'd have to pay for the truck. Then you'd have to set up a proposed levy for it so you could make the payment, because they would typically be in August or first interest payment in February, typically how they're set up. The other way you could structure it is you could say, well, we're just going to let it ride and we're going to start making payments in 2024 and pay interest on that $600,000 for another year. You could do it that way too. I don't know that you'd want to do that.
Chip shared with me that the fire truck,
Went up.
or shared with us what the fire truck was going to cost, and that the cost of the fire truck is going to go up 5% if it's ordered after September 15th. And I don't know if everybody got that information. I didn't open up the email because I had it. But the fire truck was $680. I should have printed out the email, but that will go up 5% if it's ordered after September 15th of this year. And there would be required $260,000 next year, after 8 or 9 months after you order it, $260,000. And following that year, they're saying a year it would take to get it built, and then we have 2 to 3 months to pay the balance. I think we could do it without a bond issue if we do the two, if we budget for $260,000 and then the balance, and I don't know, I can't remember, you said $120,000 for trade-ins on the two vehicles?
Right.
If I've got that all right, I mean.
Close. The truck was
Close.
658,800. The chassis pricing is good until September 15th, so if ordered by then, a progress payment of 260,000 would be due in 8 to 9 months, so that's 2023. If not ordered prior to September 15th, price would rise another 5%. Delivery with the balance due would be to 2 to 3 months following receipt of the chassis. And then, I forgot which email had the final payment was after that, after delivery.
So we
still.
could conceivably do the balance in 2024,
Right,
the way I see the schedule.
right.
So we could budget 260,000 next year if you order the truck, and then the balance less the trade-in, or not
Oh, yeah,
trade-in,
the
I'm
trade-in,
sorry,
the sale would be
outright sale,
Outright sale,
right.
125 for the one truck
Yeah.
and
I-
20 to 30 for the other truck, so
I
around
think-
150.
Yeah, I think that's a better avenue, but, that's just my opinion, that
So
we
what-
don't have to bond for it.
So go to page 9, and I can show you what that would do to the levy. Yep, go to page 9. So right now, what I have in the proposed levy with everything in there, forget about what the issue for bonds, because you're gonna have bond money, and then you're gonna turn around and spend what you got for bonds, but then you have to pay it back. So it already included $125,000 in this model for a levy to go towards that bond. If you decided not to bond for it, you would replace, you wouldn't have a bond issue. You'd still have the expenditure, but you wouldn't have to pay for it, because we'd have to reflect it for financial reporting. We'd have a payable that we'd have to service with cash, and the amount that we would change this number by would be the difference, $135,000 would get you to 260. So your levy would actually go up from what I'm showing here. It'd go up by $135,000, because you'd take 125, and you'd add 135 to it to get to 160, to get to 260.
Yeah, 260.
Yeah, but we're not paying interest over 10 years or whatever for a bond issue at $658,000.
Right. But it has a negative impact on your levy. Your levy would actually go up.
I know, we would have to look at other capital expenditures or operating expenses in order to get it back.
I don't think there's enough to get that much money.
Well, I'm thinking maybe there might be.
Where are you thinking that's coming from?
Well, a number of places. So I think we should, we can't really, we got to decide on the truck, though. I would think, I don't know that, if you're going to do it anyway, why bond for it? I think over 2 years, we could get it paid for.
Yeah. So you mentioned a number of places, but you didn't answer the question. Are you looking at capital items or
Well, I'd
others?
like to go through the budget. There's a number of things that I have questions on. So, yeah. So we're going to go through the budget, aren't we?
So we're looking at purchasing the truck, whether we bond or pay cash. Am I understanding? Just
Well-
for my understanding.
I think we should.
Huh?
I think we should, and I think we should order it before September 15.
Okay, we can make that decision Monday night, right?
Right, but at a minimum, what we should do is have an estimated cost of the truck.
Well, I think he got a quote.
Yeah, you've got
We
that.
have that.
But then we could put together a resolution so that if you changed your mind, you could bond for it. Doesn't mean you have to, but
Okay.
you could.
So what Marcia's saying is we levy $260,000 in this thing, we increase whatever's here by another 260, right?
No, not 260.
35 extra.
125 is already in there.
Yeah, you'd add 135 to it. And Marcia's
Right,
suggesting
right.
there's a number of places in here where
And
she
then
can
you'd have
find
to do
that.
that the following year?
Yes.
Is 2 years enough?
Yes, it will be, because the balance, you'll be able to levy for less what he's going to outright sell those 2 trucks for. We'll get there. Right, chief?
So now we tip over 20%. We did everything that's in here.
Correct.
Well, I
I think Monday night, we need to make sure we make the decision, order or don't order, but follow that. So if need be, we can bond, but if it'll work out, then we pay. Does that
Exactly.
make sense?
Yep, It does to me, until
Whatever
we're
it is you
done.
need to do, so we can do that Monday night. Is that, I agree
not
with
this-
that, that's
Yeah.
personally.
I do too.
Dave?
I agree, but you guys will have to make the decision.
No, I understand that, yeah.
Oh, you're not gonna be here Monday?
Well, but if we have your input now, then
Oh, yeah,
that would be good.
I agree,
Okay.
I do, I agree with what you're thinking.
You have the 5 saying yes.
So, my thought on the whole thing here is that, you know, I've talked to a few people, and they do think the city's growing, and it might be time for us to step up with what we've talked about in here. But I think that we should probably set a number for the end of September that's high, like this one, or use this number. And then we have until, is it the end of the year? December 12th. And keep working on this thing.
Well,
Trying to
I
really
think we're
figure
gonna,
out what it
we're gonna
is.
have to have another budget meeting because we don't know the debt.
We're gonna have to
We need to
have
have
more
to,
than one.
we have to, but I mean, we have to figure out the debt, what we want to bond for.
Right,
We need that piece before we can send it to the
If we
county.
just set the number high enough, we're covering ourselves. We can always come down. You can't put it at 5% and go up. You can put it at 20 and come down. It's correct?
Correct.
And I agree with that.
Because it seems like we don't get anywhere with,
But let's keep rolling then,
Right.
agreed?
yep.
Yeah, we don't have that piece of the bond
No,
issue. so.
and one piece that'll make that more clear is whatever you folks decide on Wednesday, a week from today, with the assessments for the roads,
Oh, for the road.
because we're trying to do one combined issue here.
Yeah.
On the 17th or the 18th.
Yeah.
I know Soil and Water meets on the 17th, so I'll have clarity on what they're offering up the following morning.
Do you know what the number is, Mike, if we decided not to assess for the roads on all of them that we did this year? Do you know what the two numbers are?
Yes, I do. Those are in the bond issue.
It's in the bond issue.
It's in the bond issue on pages 2 through 4.
Oh, you have scenarios.
The assessments at the full amount, and this includes principal and interest on the assessments. It's 557,822. That's on page 2.
Page what?
37,188. You see that on the bond issue on page 2?
So if we assess the way we're planning on, with the way we previously agreed to, we'll collect 557,882.
You should, if everyone, you could collect less if people pay things off early, but the theory is you'd have that money invested and it'd be a wash.
And the total project cost is 800 or so? I mean,
It's a little below that, yeah. But you'd have to issue about $820,000 of bonds to do that, to get 800. And again, we've still got some issues with those projects for the three we're looking at, and we're trying to get final cost on those numbers too. So we can wrap that up.
So is it out of place to talk about the assessments here now, probably, huh?
Oh, it's kind of a waste of time, isn't it?
Well, you have a hearing coming up. I mean, I know there's differing views on what we should assess and for how much, and whether they're right or not, and that's really up to you folks to decide. But we need to know. The point is, we'll need to know.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but there's not much of a crowd in here, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Is it out of place to talk about it now or not? I don't know.
Well, no, we did talk about it earlier, when we talked about the bonds, and that was one of the unknowns. So what do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of opposition to assessments. Dave, you're gonna probably not vote on it, I'm assuming, because you're one. Okay. So if we're gonna assess 557 on 800,000, do we wanna consider lowering the assessment a little bit to ease the pain, or? I mean, that's what I wanna talk about, but,
Well, you're not really easing the pain, you're just shifting it.
well, that's true, but we're taking it
Because you're
off
going to
the
pay what you're going to have
concentrate.
to pay, and someone's got to pay for it.
We're easing the pain for the few that are paying for it. But there's gonna be a lot of opposition.
I think that's a decision we make after the hearing.
Just wait for the hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, you already voted on you're gonna assess.
Yeah. Yeah, and, yeah, I mean, I'm still planning on it, but there's gonna be some gunslinging going on.
Yeah. Let them go. We can't stop that. I don't want to.
All right.
You like name calling, don't you?
So at any rate,
Apology out of that already.
I know that we talked about the fire truck. I know Eric has an update on the squad car, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about the squad car?
Just real quick, I contacted Ford today, because this is normally about the time that I start ordering squads. And they told me that it's due tomorrow, of the order. And then they sent me the order form. And the squad itself, from last year's price to this year's price, went up $8,000.
And
About
last year,
$8,100.
was it like 50 last year?
What's that?
Was it 50 last year? How much was
No,
that?
no, I think the purchase of the squad last year was just the vehicle.
Just the squad? Yep.
3,400 or
So
34,143.
now it's 42,000.
Now it is 40,228, but the overall with the options is going to be 4,200 or 42,236.
And you want to budget 67 per year? Is that true?
Well, that was the thought up till now. Now it's like, do we start increasing that? And so we have that,
Well, and that's 6 cars in 5 years. That's why it's 67.
right. So now your squad is probably going to be somewhere around, probably closer to 60,000
Yeah.
when you build it.
Well, I'm sure. it'll
Right
be
now, it's
all of
about
that.
53,
It'll
give
be
or
all of
take.
that, Eric.
Yeah, not including the new radios that we have to put in that are just under $6,000 a piece. So that was news to me, and that is just the V6. That's not the hybrid, that's not the EcoBoost, that is the base engine. The hybrid is, I think it was, well, I didn't even want to look. I think it's about 10 grand more than the hybrid is 2,800 more.
How many miles do you put on a squad in 5 years, roughly?
Between each of them, it varies. There could be one squad that, with a younger officer, that might have 120,000 on it. There might be 130,000. There might be, someone like myself or the sergeant that in 5 years might have about 80,000. That's why it's a good option for TJ and Pete to take those vehicles over where they can use them probably for another 5 years in just general use.
How many engine hours does that come to?
What's that?
I mean, we usually look at engine hours, because every time we've sold a squad, everyone wants to know what the engine hours are.
Engine hours, yeah,
They never turn off on a shift.
no.
You double the mileage at minimum.
Yeah.
Right. And I haven't really looked at the engine hours that much. I mean, in general, we keep really good care of those
you take good
cars.
care
I
of
mean, if they were shared, they'd be pieces of junk. If you shared them with others, and you'd be replacing them every 3 years. And you'd have 3 instead of 6 when you need 6, and you only have 3 and one's down, now you got 2. So we've got a good program going on with that, but yeah, I was really shocked. The police chiefs looked at me today and said, call Ford. And they didn't tell me that it had gone up that much.
Okay, but you just love it when I talk about the assigned balance.
Jeez, here we go.
The assigned
Okay.
balance for the police department is 157,000, so isn't that part of those 5
That
years
is
of
part of,
vehicles?
yes. Yep.
Okay, so we wouldn't really need to increase,
If you don't touch it, you're right.
right?
Right.
And you haven't touched it because it was
I'm
150.
trying to touch it.
150 at the beginning of the year, and it's 157 now, so.
I've got things.
What?
I've got things.
Well, I know, that's what you told me last year, and it came back, it was
Well,
gonna
and
be
it has
under
gone down.
100,000, and it was 150. I'm just
Mike
saying.
does his thing, and I have purchased, but you're right, I haven't purchased all the things that I said I was gonna purchase yet this year. So like the squad radio, 6,000, that has not been purchased yet. As a matter of fact, it just came in this week when I ordered it back in February.
Okay, we were at 151,000. I'm just saying, we gotta take that into account.
Yeah, but before we move on, are we going to tell him to order because he has to order it?
Well, all right, let me step outside the box. I'm gonna order it tomorrow. And if you don't give me approval to order it on, our final approval on Monday, I'll cancel it.
We're stuck. I would say yes, you have to order.
Well, yeah, he's got to put in the order or we
Right.
don't get one, period.
Ford did not
And that's not
satisfy
guaranteed.
7,500 squads this year that were ordered.
Did they cancel something on you a year or two ago?
Yep, they canceled, back in 19, they
19,
canceled an order on me.
You know, you might have to look at, you know, things that we buy here, we have to kind of, like you talked your Bobcat, we're gonna have to get another year or two or something, more hours out of this stuff. It might be that you'll have to look at your model and say, I'm gonna run them.
And we are running one
Push them
squad.
another 6 years, go
Yep.
6 years or something. you know?
We've actually run 2 squads for 6 years, and the maintenance starts to add up. And, you know, we had the spare, the old Crown Victoria, we kept around as a spare. It didn't get used much, but sitting, it started costing us money because it wasn't being run. We can certainly take a look at that and do a 6-year rotation. You know, like I said, it's just that sometimes you get the one officer, a couple officers, younger officers, night officers that end up putting more miles on because they're actually getting out and patrolling. That's 3 of our officers. 3 of our officers, including myself, work day shift, and, you know, that could change if you allow me to get out of the office and not sit around and answer phones and do clerical work. That could change too, or my position, I should say. So there are a lot of factors, and I guess we got to take a look at it on a year-to-year basis.
Another reason we just set the levy high because we don't have the answer,
So
Well-
you're ordering a squad car tomorrow.
the preliminary levy.
I'll order it
Today.
tomorrow or today. I'll email them and get the order in, and if we have to cancel it, we cancel it.
Okay.
But at least it's in.
Okay, then let's keep rolling.
And the one I'm replacing right now is 6 years. So it is a 6-year-old squad car.
Patrick, you've got an update on a couple things too?
Well, I was hoping to get permission to order that sickle mower we talked about.
Oh,
Last
the
week.
sycamore.
So we can get it here as soon as we can and start
That's-
using it.
That's in the 22 budget.
23, wasn't it, Mike? That we,
We didn't have it separately identified
I
as
thought
an,
you had a mower in there.
Well, the sickle, that's for the trees. going down the
right,
side of the-
right,
Yeah.
because last night when we were at the,
Along
or
the-
yesterday at the meeting, one of the people in the community was saying how they can't see around a lot of the corners because everything's overgrown.
And that goes on a Bobcat or
Yep.
more on the Bobcat?
Yep, goes right on the
That
skid
was
loader.
like $7,000 or something?
was more like
No, it was
11.
12, wasn't it 11 or 12? Something like
That looks to me like it doesn't have a long life to it.
Well, we gotta do something though to trim
know, but I
back, you
mean,
know.
doesn't it-
And then what I like about it is we can buy one that flails everything and you got a big mess and things flying through there. This just walks along and cuts
If
it.
the operator is careful what size branches he's hitting, it should last, but if you go down that thing.
But if you hit too big, it automatically shuts off and kicks back. It's got safety
Does it
mechanisms on
run
it.
this way, vertical?
You can put it up in the air or you can lay it down,
So it's
or you
like
can
a
actually
bar.
go
Sickle.
further down. So if it's a steep ditch, you can lay it down in the ditch and mow the grass with it too. And then TJ can use it for the parks, widen their trails out.
Yeah, my trails north of the community center haven't been trimmed in 6 years. Yeah, so.
I just think whoever uses that thing, you gotta talk to
guy.
them and tell them not to treat it like a bucket on a Bobcat.
Well, I noticed that we haven't gotten the mower trailer Can we,
Was that still in there, Mike, or not? 'Cause we-
It is, and we didn't do anything with refurbishing the sweeper.
I'm thinking that you could use that more trailer money in order to buy your sickle mower in 2022. That's on page 8. That's page 18, that I'm taking that off.
You have enough things that you haven't purchased in there to pay for it. You just won't buy there.
I would say buy it.
And what about your 1-ton truck? Did you order that?
We gotta I got the numbers together, we just gotta sit down with Mike and get it ordered.
Okay, so is that gonna be more than the 80,000?
No.
It's
The truck-
not.
The truck itself was 56,
56.
roughly, somewhere around there. And I'm waiting for Crysteel to get me the new numbers on the box and everything for it.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll have them tomorrow.
So I'm thinking if you don't get the trailer, you have the 22 budget where you can cover the 1-ton and the sickle.
So hopefully we have it for Monday night.
Hopefully I'll have the numbers for the new truck.
I think this would be a good addition for Cross Lake based on everything we've been hearing about right-of-way and being able to see things,
Yep.
plus the trail issue.
Originally, I was thinking we're gonna have to just walk down there, then I run across this, and it seemed to be the right way to just drive along. Then we can come back through with one of our mowers and mulch up most of it, so we don't have to pick up everything we're cutting. Just the big stuff we'll pick up and get rid of.
The old one with the hammerheads that cut the grass,
Yep,
we turned in Baxter, we turned that on end, and one guy stood there with a broom and swept the branches in. Folks should have come along, that city would have
well,
never survived.
we have them attachments we can buy for like the Mini X and that, but the stuff just flies through the air and it's just not safe.
Oh,
So that's a sickle mower,
Yeah.
up and
yep.
down.
yeah.
So are you doing anything with the sweeper budget?
We haven't done nothing yet.
Do you intend on doing anything with it? You know,
We really
maybe,
hadn't talked about it, to be honest with you.
because you have 20,000 for the sweeper.
As of right now, I hadn't planned on doing anything with it.
Okay,
Maybe we
so,
can save that to next year and revisit it.
Okay.
Come back with a recommendation.
Eric, can I back up with you? I've had a lot of people request those little battery speed limit signs on the post, not the big ones, but the little ones. How much are they?
I think if you wanted to do, I'll just throw it out there in numbers, and I'm not so sure. I did look at a couple earlier this year. I think they're about 3,200 for the mobile ones, and I think they're about 52 or 55 for the ones like we have out on Daggett Pine Road.
So, I mean, I've had a lot, West Shore Drive now, especially with the detour. A lot of requests to put those out in multiple spots. So is
Right.
that something that we want to throw a little extra money at him to do that?
I mean, I can get you costs for it at the meeting on Monday.
I mean, they
No.
work, you know?
I'll get some,
Yeah.
would you like to see them permanent, or would you like to see it where they're mobile? The nice thing about the permanent is that we don't have to touch it.
I think permanent, but,
And
you know, we might need to get 4 of them a year or something, but wherever. Community Center Road, just a reminder.
Solar, right?
Yeah.
Well, the permanent ones are solar.
The other one,
The other ones, we have to go out and touch them once a week.
I like the
and
permanent with the
It
battery.
gets to be a little old, because we also have one in Mission too, so.
I'd agree with you.
And Patrick, I don't know, I think I asked you this, or maybe it was Ted, but to put a sprinkler on those trees by the pond on Manhattan Point Boulevard,
That was brought up, I think, the first meeting I was at.
and maybe a fountain in that pond, because it would look nice, plus it would keep that water from getting muddy. It would. So we'll talk, you
I
know,
can check on some prices for you on that and see what it'll take.
but we, you know, we got 20 trees planted there and they're all gonna die if we don't sprinkle them. It's crazy not to, but.
Because we're scheduled to get rid of the dead trees up there as soon as the construction is done.
Are they gonna have to replant new ones? Do they have to guarantee them for a year or so, or?
not if you don't water them.
Not if you don't water them.
Whose is
I
it?
think for now you get
Whose
rid of the
trees
dead
are
ones.
they? Are they ours?
Must be our trees.
We didn't water them last year is what happened.
Well, and this year's been wet, but, you know, just a little trickle, spring, you know, nothing, but.
Well, as long as we're on Public Works, how about your duct cleaning? We have another 5,000 in there at 2023, and you haven't used it in 2022.
Clean it out.
Yeah,
That was a project that we were gonna look at, the joint maintenance
Doesn't have
facility with the
anything
county
in
on duct cleaning.
Oh, is that 5
Yeah.
grand?
There was painting in there, there was cleaning the floors, there was sweeping, there was all kinds of stuff in there.
We're gonna meet with him, what, next month or two or something like
Yes.
that?
but what I'm saying is that the 5,000 has already been levied for in 2022. Can we delete it in 2023?
I would recommend Pat and Mike sit down and go through those line items and then come back and tell us, I'm gonna spend it this year, or I'm not,
Well,
Okay,
or tell us.
that'd be fair enough.
but the whole thing is that if you're going to spend it, that's fine, but why are we levying again for it in 2023? There's where I'm at.
So we levied last year, we didn't
Yes.
use it, we got 5 grand.
Not yet, not this year. We levied 5,000 this year.
That part too, that's good.
Well, why would you levy twice?
They can answer
Well,
that, I don't
you
know.
don't levy for it. If we don't spend it this year, you don't levy for it. You
Exactly.
You'd carry it
earmark
over.
the money and just move it forward, but you don't levy a second time.
Exactly. So I would like to omit that 5,000 for duct cleaning in 2023.
And see if there's any other duplicates like that on the list.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we deduct.
I thought we weren't doing
We can't
motions
do
of
motions.
these.
They're
Why
gonna go
can't we
back.
why can't we do motions?
Somebody said we couldn't last time.
No.
You said at the meeting last time, no motions.
I think he wanted to go through the whole budget. Aaron said he wanted to go through the whole budget.
I did.
Yeah. So I'm saying, I'll make a motion that we delete the $5,000 from Public Works for duct cleaning in 2023.
I think we just brought up the subject, and I thought we would let Pat and Mike go through and figure out, do they need it or not, before you go and just delete.
So the next meeting, it should be off the list. Let's just earmark it, see if it's off the list.
If
We'll
he
go
doesn't
through
need
it
it,
all and we'll make sure we have
Next time if they
exactly
need it or
what we're
not.
gonna spend, yes.
But I don't know if you need it or not. You have to decide, you know?
Right.
Not us.
But can we make motions in this meeting, or can we
Yes,
not?
we can.
I don't know.
Why can't you in a budget meeting? You can
Exactly.
sure.
I'm just repeating what was said at the last meeting.
He wanted to go through the whole thing first.
Yeah. A motion was made, and I said I wanted to wait till we had gone through it all. But I don't know if we have. But I'll accept the motion, Marcia. I'm not going to fight about it.
Well, I mean, I would second that motion,
Okay.
and I would carry it through to anything else that's duplicated on there. We should take it off, but
Well, we'll hit those. Okay.
And at the end of the year, if we haven't used this money, we'll move it into the following year.
Right.
I mean,
You don't have to levy for it a second year. Okay. I guess you got to call the question, call it a vote.
Motion. You got a
Call a
motion
vote,
and a
Dave.
second.
Yeah.
okay, motion and a second to delete that item and any other ones like it.
Well, I don't think
No,
you can say
specific
any
to
other
this one.
items. This one.
Just do the,
Okay, just the one.
Without them reviewing it?
well, he'll review it, and if he needs it, then he needs to come back and
Got
tell us.
it this year in there. So now this is a duplicate for it, so we don't need the duplicate. So we're making,
You don't do this every year, do you?
No.
We might clean something else, we put it in there if we don't get
No.
it.
Maybe he
I
can.
mean, we just
just vote on- the
reallocated money
motion's
within our
there now.
budget to
So-
buy a
5,000.
sickle mower.
Let's remove it and let's move on.
Yeah, but I'll just state on the record, they're running their business, they have responsibilities. I don't know if it's needed or not, and I don't know how we can sit here and tell Pat, you don't need to do that. We don't
We're
know
not
the
saying
right-
he's not, we're not saying that he doesn't need to do it. We're saying we don't want to levy for it twice.
yeah. They've
You're
already
just
got it.
not giving them the money to do whatever that was for.
But sometimes,
5,000 is there.
right, but then
They got
they'll
it.
use it for something different, is what's happened.
Can't he go back and?
That's
review
their
it?
problem. No,
Okay,
Call
let's
it.
just do it. We got a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
aye.
Motion carries. Delete that item.
I didn't get that vote.
I'm sorry?
I didn't get who voted what
Aye.
and who was nay.
Aye.
You were nay?
No, I was aye. So it was 3-2.
It was a,
It's 3-2.
That's what I need to know. Who
Okay.
was aye and who was nay? He didn't ask who was a nay.
These three were ayes, those two were
Back to that
nays.
5,000.
To delete the 5,000 line item
And give her the line
out of the
item
budget.
number.
Marcia
It's
made
for
the
duct
motion.
cleaning and public
Aaron
works.
seconded it,
Okay. So
and
she's,
the vote was 3
What
to
about voting on my truck then?
okay, let's keep going.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's a
Go
good
back and ask
question.
that.
we're in Public
They don't
Works.
have to do it on Monday.
Could I make a motion that we delete the 80,000 for the one-ton since he's, no, it's in the 2023 budget.
Oh, no, but back here, we already said it was coming out.
No, we didn't. We didn't know which year it was going to be in. Just because it's listed as an expenditure does not mean that you're levying for it each year. So let's be clear about that. It means that's just the year in which the expenditure will fall. We already have it in our plan to make an appropriate levy adjustment to recognize the fact, and we'll pick on the $5,000 that said, we didn't do it this year, we didn't get it done as an expenditure. We're talking about expenditures right now, not how we're funding them. So the way I do this is I recognize, well, if we didn't do that and we levied for it, I take it out of the levy, I don't levy for it again. So we're not levying for the same thing twice, so let's be clear about that.
But
So
you
the
did
same-
levy for it last year? It was included in there
It's
last year?
in 2022.
It's in
Levy.
2022. We included it. I'd have to look at our 2022 budget, and I make an adjustment for that, saying we don't need to levy for it because we've already provided that in the previous year. Okay? And so to say that we're levying for it each year is incorrect, because that's not how we're doing things. And we do the same thing with the truck. If we don't buy it this year,
Well, we buy it, but we don't have to pay for it. It won't come in until second or third month, fourth month of next year, so that's when you gotta pay for it.
and we do the same
So it'll
thing,
be in 2023.
we would show it, because it's, in governmental accounting, if it's not received soon enough after year end to use current spendable resources, we can't reflect it this year. It'd have to be next year. So depending on when we get a delivery date on that, we would say, okay, we already levied for it. We're not going to levy for it. We're going to show it as the expense in the proper year, but we would take it out of the levy. So it'd be a reduction in the levy that we're looking at right now. That's how I do it. I don't levy for the same thing twice. That's an expenditure, not a levy. So you're confusing revenue with expense. Pretty simple concept. So let's move on.
Hey,
Wherever you guys want to go, Marcia has a bunch of questions.
Well, I wanted to remove the one-ton truck from the budget, the 2023 budget.
when he has the
Yeah.
numbers, I thought,
When he has a delivery date, then we'll do that. We'll either shift it from one year to the next, but we're not going to levy for it again because it was already in this year's levy.
yeah.
I got a question on the roads, Mike. Highlighted in yellow,
Give me a page.
chip sealing, page 19. It says Whitefish Avenue, Hilltop, and Woodland, and it says 100 grand.
Correct.
Didn't we do that this year?
We haven't received the bill for all of it. We've just received the repair work for it.
Okay, so we didn't levy last year knowing it was coming? I mean, that's where I get confused, because I thought we did, but,
Well, we levied an amount for chip sealing and we levied an amount for crack sealing. Now, Whitefish, remember, we reduced the size of the road projects by the amount that was being chip sealed. So it's part of the road projects.
and we did a little repair, which increased it a little bit too.
Overlay there, did we?
No.
We did,
Chip sealed and it's a study, kind of.
well, we spent about $40,000 on fixing the road before we chip sealed it.
I mean, that's just where I get confused, because I thought we already did that, but that's not a duplication?
No, it is not.
No.
All right.
They've had about 35,000 in expenses.
Yeah, and that was for repairs from Anderson Brothers for
Yeah.
cutting out the tar and the bad spots, replacing the pavement before it was sealed. So we don't have the bill for the sealing yet. Okay? One thing we have is we didn't get the striping done this year.
Nope, we're gonna go over that and get it all done,
So we're
lined
gonna,
up this winter and be done.
Pat's looking at this winter, so that's an amount we'll carry over, that we won't levy for that amount next year.
Okay, this would be to Pat, I think. I want somebody to give me a cost to redesign this here. My back is killing me. I want to get back down on a chair.
Whose idea was this to do it so high like this, Dave?
Well, these chairs are the most uncomfortable things I've ever sat in.
And Pat, unfortunately, it'll probably fall on you, but get us a cost to redesign this and move it. This is not, can't be EDA with us being this close and this high.
Well, if we step, then it isn't. You know, if you have to step up, then it isn't.
Well, up on the chair, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he wants to cut
But
it off.
Cut
let's
it
put
down.
let's put a number together, and let's put that in the 23 budget, not 22, 23. Okay, I want to talk 23 here.
Pat, I got another concern on your department, is shouldering the roads. Is there anything you can get that you could put on the back of a truck that would make it easier to auger gravel onto a shoulder, or is what you have good enough?
That's probably good enough. I just got a attachment for the skid loader, so it levels it out better would be more feasible.
I
We gotta
mean,
look
I
at
drive
that.
around and I see a lot of
there's a ton of them
places,
that need to be
and-
done.
And that, if we're trying to get as much life out of the roads as we can, that's something that we have
Yeah.
to do.
I agree 100%. We gotta get on that. There's, you know,
So
when
my
we've had
thought
free
is if
time,
there's-
we've done the storm damage this year and we should have been, we gotta get back to the shoulders, but I also think shoulders need to be done in the spring of the year. Spring, early summer, so it compacts before you start running plows across them.
Ideally, but so does that mean we let it go all winter?
No, we're gonna get some of
I
them
mean,
done
that,
this year.
you know, that's, okay, enough said, but as long as what you have is good, you just
Yep.
gotta get time to do it.
If we find something better, we'll come to you guys and let you know.
Okay. But everybody's agreeing on this. I'm going to stay at it till somebody get an agreement.
No, I think you're probably right. I'm just
I'd like
thinking,
this
you know,
lower.
Start with a sketch or something that
And
you
I
might-
think we should look at the design. I can't see any of you
Yeah.
at these meetings. I think that's
Get up.
pretty lousy.
Bend into here and bring it around so we can,
Do we have to like make a visit
We can
to
sit
Nisswa
in a
or
real
some
chair.
other place? See
Uh,
what they
The way we had it in the old building was excellent.
round.
it's
yeah.
approved
Did we
to get it
save that?
into the budget.
No. If we would have spent another $1 million, we would have had a fancy place.
So are we still in Public Works? Because TJ's got a couple things too.
Let's go to Park and Rec. I think we're not getting anywhere otherwise, because the Public Works, we're not. I wanted to take that stuff out, but that's not happening.
And give me a page number where we're at.
We're on 22, I assume.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. I had to leave the last meeting a little early, so I might kind of touch base on some of our HVAC units. We have 4 units that are 25 years old. We have some options of what we can do with them. I do have money in this year's budget, 2022, to replace 2 units. So we can replace 2, and I had it in the budget next year to replace 1, and then 1 the following year after that in 2024. After talking to Thielen, so each, they're like pairs. So a pair of HVAC and a pair of HVAC combined, they're 4 HVAC units. One serves the locker room and the 3 others serve the gymnasium. If you replace, he says it makes sense to replace 2 at a time. Replacing 1 at a time doesn't make sense because it all ties back into the same sheet metal. So we're really spending more money if we're only replacing 1. So like in my plan, 2023, if we're replacing 1, I think we should bump that up and just replace the 4th one right away. His ideal scenario was to just show up to the community center once, get them all 4 replaced. It would save us money in the long run, 1 trip, 1 project. We can stick with the 2 and 2. I would feel comfortable with the 2 and 2. I don't know if you want me to get a number on what I guess you can't assume what the price will be next year. They have gone up about $3,500 since we replaced HVAC units last year, the year before, I can't remember. But what I'm saying is we have money to cover 2 this year. But it's if we want to replace one the following year and one the following year after that, or if we want to come back next year and replace the last remaining 2 in 2023. If so, we'd have to bump that 9 up to 25.
I'd say replace the 2 next year. If I were in my own business doing it, I'd do 4 now, but based on how we've been working, I'd just do 2 this year and 2 next.
And the 4 this year would bring it up to 48 instead of the 26 that we have in the budget.
So how many in total then are there?
4 units.
4 in total that
Yep.
What's
And
it
they're-
going to be this year?
Well, if we were to do all 4, it would be 48.
Oh,
The 2, I have a request for council action that I will be presenting on Monday, right around 24.4 for the 2.
That's not much.
Fits in our budget for this year,
For 2 furnaces.
correct.
That's
Air
not,
conditioners too?
that's not much difference, so then if you're going 24 for 2 next year, 24 for the year after, it's pretty close to 48 now, unless the price goes up a bunch
Right.
next year.
So how much sheet metal do they have to, if you bring that up, that it's nice to do more than one set?
Well, it certainly, it saves fuel surcharge and setup and, just coming up here in general, it costs money for them to bring their guys up here, but I don't know the exact cost of what the difference would be
Is
for
that
doing all
Thielen?
4 rather than 2, yeah.
Thielen?
So would he take a purchase order for doing 2 now and 2 next year and all the sheet metal and then, but not have to pay?
There's no sheet metal.
Well, and he mentioned sheet metal. You have different plenums or something you gotta
Yeah,
do?
but
I
that's a
didn't know.
rubber boot that goes between them. There's no sheet
I
metal.
don't know, I thought you said something about sheet.
Yeah, that's what he said, but,
So-
I mean, these units are
Once we go to lock the price in,
yeah.
he can sit on them if he wants to.
Did you get a bid from anybody else?
I went with them just because they did it last year. They did.
It just seems high to
2
me.
last year,
You know, a furnace.
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
a
They got
replacement.
expensive. I mean, we were right around the 9,000 per unit. I can't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago.
That was 2
But
years.
just like everything else, I mean,
That
it's,
was 2 years ago.
we talk about trucks going up
26,000 for
8,000,
2?
vehicles going up
You need
8
to bump
grand.
the 9,000 to 25 is what you're suggesting to us.
The what now?
You're requesting that we bump the 9,000 in '23 to 25,000?
25, yep.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. Let's just do it.
But TJ, so you got 26,000 in the budget. Is that it to replace 2 furnaces?
Correct.
So they're 13 grand each, and that seems kind of crazy high to me. No ductwork or no nothing, just.
It's in a pretty awkward space too. It's up in our gym, so I'm sure that accounts for some of the costs. Some steep stairs and,
I think you should make, what Aaron said, you better put that other one to 26 for now.
Or to 26?
Nine is
I
low.
don't care. So 26 then instead of 25. Okay, next?
that's all I have unless you have any more questions for me.
I like how you did this levy, did it, I like that. Don't put that in the notes.
We're working on the garage expansion or the move of the garage. Hopefully when that road opens, we can.
Is that road impacting that move?
It would cost more for the move. So my goal would be, I talked to Leighton, he said October's pretty open. Talked to Trana, I'm gonna get some updated numbers from them, see what their schedule's like. And it's just really on us to get the site prepped for Trana to come in, lay that slab, pour the blocks, and then get the building moved. I don't know for sure. We'll kind of see what the weather does to see if we can get it fully equipped and ready to go before winter hits. But my main goal would be to pour the slab, get the building moved, and get the garage doors extended, and we can worry about the rest in the spring.
You better put that on your high priority or
Yep.
it's not gonna happen.
Yep.
Are you moving that garage then?
That'd be a yes.
Yep, that's the plan. Any other questions?
Thank you.
can we talk about the sewer capital outlay now? I think we should maybe put off that floor if you're gonna, are you doing the roofs? I don't see any costs here.
I submitted the well, I told you what the costs were last time, and I don't have that in front of me right now.
Oh, because it hasn't changed here.
Because we were taking that out of the 60,000 that you had set up for the fund.
Oh, so we're taking the floor,
60,000,
the
we're
60.
gonna put the roofs
put
coming
the
out of
roofs
that,
on.
and there was still money left for the concrete and that, so we, we're not going above that 60,000 mark.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. That includes the roofs. The 60,000
Yeah, we're
includes the
just,
roofs.
we're just not
The
gonna
floor
finish the
and the
inside of that
roofs.
building. It was, the roofs and cement the floor out so we can use that building for something.
And you say wire too, are you gonna rough the wiring yet?
Yeah, I'll be
Is
doing
that what the
that.
wire is?
Yeah.
Pat's Electric.
What about the
That's Moonlighting Electric Service.
HVAC, the
Well, the in-floor
25,000?
heat, we'll just put that in ourselves. We can put the PEX tubing in ourselves.
Oh, is that for the building there?
Yeah.
Where's this other one, replacing 3 units for this year?
What page are you on?
On
23.
23.
Ted was looking at replacing 3 units in the sewer plant.
How come he gets them for 3 for 20?
Yeah. Are they Modines?
They're
I wonder?
smaller units.
They're smaller units.
Yeah, they're smaller units. I don't see where they would need to be
Are they just
replaced.
hanging
I'd have to look at them.
Yeah, the reservoir heaters.
So that 25,000 might be able to be omitted from the budget.
For next year.
Possibly, I'll look at it and get back to you on that one.
Okay.
And this is a
So
case where if we didn't get it done this year, we'd budget it next year.
we only have 15 left this year.
Don't put the pecs in before the shoulders, the roads are shoulders.
And then on the budget, just the 49,980, isn't that lift stations? That's not the
Those are for the
clerk,
controls.
for the lift stations.
Yes.
So you got them in the clarifiers instead of the lift station?
I have them in controls too. Clarifier refurb controls, clarifier engineering. We didn't know if we were doing those projects together or pulling them apart, and Ted found a more economical solution, so we pulled it out.
And the other question I have is 100,000 for maintenance?
For the plant, it could, like I said, it could,
But I
certain
mean,
parts
do we
left in
have
it.
something identified, or are we just throwing 100,000?
Well, once again, it's just sitting there. If we need to use it, we use it. If not, then we don't use that money.
The reality is, Marcia, we're identifying a potential cost. We're not identifying a funding source because we don't have a funding source other than a transfer from the general fund to pay for those things.
They're not in the levy.
They're not in the levy.
Yeah, but I'm just saying is that we've only done 4,300 of maintenance this year, and we're projecting 100,000 next year.
It could happen, though. I mean,
You
it's,
gotta start with kind
That's
of a
a
higher
liability
number
there.
and hopefully we keep it below that. But you just don't know, I mean, like I say, when you add wastewater to it, it's double what you think it would ever be. It's just ridiculous how they charge you for stuff down there.
So what direction do you folks want to go with the budget? I mean, we've been here over an hour.
I
Do
just,
you want to meet at 1 o'clock on Monday or not?
oh my God.
Because I
I'm
don't think
fine with that.
I don't think you're ready to approve a levy Monday night.
will we have any more information on the debt, on the bond issue?
I won't until you decide on the assessments.
Question I had on this.
I won't until I get a bill from, what information do you want? Because anything I give you now will be
Where's the
wrong.
one that said,
Well, I already made my request.
Right, and I
A
told you what I
bond issue
could provide, and it
deductions.
wasn't what you wanted. 'Cause I
Monday,
can't provide it to you.
well, this
Probably
one
not.
right here, fully loaded, paid 2023. Total change.
You could decide a direction on the fire truck today.
That's what I was going to say. Can we make a decision on the fire truck today? And then one other thing, since I was late, did we talk, any discussion on building maintenance fund for all the buildings?
We did not.
Yes,
Okay, but then you go.
that needs to get put in.
Up the tax rate,
I agree.
same as we did last year.
What, are-
End up with a
Aaron, what are you thinking about putting in there?
Yeah, we don't want to.
What are you thinking about putting in there annually?
come out.
I don't have a clue what to put in for building maintenance citywide.
Well, we were gonna sit down and talk about it, we just haven't gotten that done yet, to figure out what we want so
Can you
much
try
for
to do that
building
before
that
Monday,
we feel
1
kinda
o'clock?
safe.
Well, let's decide if we're gonna meet Monday at 1 first. I'm hearing, I wanna meet, I'm hearing I don't wanna meet.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We're trying to get,
So let's make a decision on if we're gonna meet Monday or not.
How about buying a truck?
Then we'll get to your truck, but this was up first. I would suggest we don't meet Monday, you give staff time to pull these things together. You've obviously all got questions you haven't asked yet. I'd like to know what those are, get them to me.
But we have to kind of discuss this fire truck, I
Yep,
think.
but let's
I
talk
mean,
about Monday. Are we
And
gonna
that's
meet Monday or
prior,
not?
we're going to do it on Monday?
No, the question I'm asking is, are we meeting Monday at 1 or not? I'm suggesting we don't.
I
got-
guess, I think we need to yet.
well, I don't think we're ready to say what we're gonna do yet. I'm not.
I think I'm ready to say I want a fire truck, though, and I can do that today, and then Chip can make his order on Monday. No, we haven't told him yes.
Yeah, we told them to order.
No, we didn't.
No, we did not.
I think well, we're talking about it, but I don't think there's been
That's
a
true.
motion.
I make a motion that we let Chip order his fire truck at 600,080, whatever it was.
658.
Okay, any discussion on it?
Based on the, we're budgeting only 260,000 in 2023, and then the balance in 2024, based on the schedule that the salesperson gave you for quote.
So my question was, what started this whole discussion earlier, was we're looking for $135,000, and where's that coming from? Because we got 125 in this model, we don't have 135.
I think we stick with the bonding proposal that you have.
Set it up where we can go either way at this point. Because I think you want to have more discussion, am I correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I guess you're the one that said for the council meeting to have it, the bond issue
I
set.
did, I said for council meeting,
But there was no motion. That's the whole thing. And John's got a motion now on the,
A motion on the table is to buy the fire truck, and we can figure out which way you want to pay for it. But he's got a Monday deadline.
Okay, got a Monday, John's got a motion. Did you second it, Aaron?
yes.
All in favor?
So, just to be clear, the motion is to order the truck, period.
Correct.
Thank you.
Is that okay with you? Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Huh? I am.
Okay. We good on the truck?
Yeah, I'm gonna clarify with the guy that the last payment will be in 2024. Because I didn't see it in the email, but I'm sure
well,
it's,
the email was 2 or 3, payment must be received 2 or 3 months after the chassis is delivered.
it's 10 to 12 months from contract execution.
I'm assuming it'll be a
10
year.
to 12 months from contract execution, okay. 268 months after the contract for the chassis.
So are we going to have a meeting at 1 o'clock? Do we decide?
We haven't decided that.
You don't want to? You don't think it's
Yes.
necessary?
Well, what am I gonna present to you that's different than what we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah. But you want to try to set the tax levy, the initial one, Monday night at the meeting?
I would say no. I
No.
would say do it a week later.
Okay.
Have a special meeting, and maybe we'll have some of this information to do that.
I do have another question about revenues.
Okay,
Can I ask that?
sure.
Okay.
What page are we on?
Fire I'm on page 24. The fire protection and calls, why is it was 112 in 2021, the actual, and now it's
It's
being
gone down
budgeted
quite a bit, hasn't it?
30,000.
What did we do in 2021?
I have no idea.
You don't remember?
No.
It's 24. How much did you get from Oregon?
That been that long ago already?
Yes, it has. The
Oh.
difference is the money we got
That's when you
from
drove out
Oregon.
the back?
Yep,
Okay, that's a good question.
It's an anomaly.
good question, bad memory.
Yep,
We all have that issue.
I didn't know that's where it went.
Yep, that's where it went. We put it, we treated it as, we went around and around with the auditors. They said, well, that's special. And I said, well, what's special about it? We provided fire service for them and we billed them
Okay.
for it. So it's
Mike,
it's a
on
revenue.
on another note, we went to Louisiana last year. We should be receiving that money this month. We
Okay,
should have
how
got it
much was that
already.
again?
It was
I haven't
like
seen anything on it.
$9,000 or something.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
So we have to set the levy by the end of the month?
Correct.
September
So
30th.
today
Is the 7th.
is the 7th. And so that'll give us some more time to hone in on this whole thing?
Yep,
So we could have a meeting the week of the 19th and a meeting the week of the 26th.
that's correct.
30th is a Friday. So,
September 20th, there's several people that are going to be in a meeting for P and Z training. And then I'm gone for probably the 26th, 7th, somewhere in there.
Monday, Tuesday, yeah.
We can be done with that before then.
So let's do this. Let's plan to meet a week from today, same time. Get me your questions, concerns, come in and see me. I don't bite.
Will you have the information that you need then, next Wednesday?
I think the 17th, you said they vote.
Oh,
Yeah, they vote 17th.
Yeah.
I should have the number on assessments, right,
Yeah.
folks?
No.
On the
16th,
14th?
14th?
After the 14th.
Yeah.
So should we meet the 19th or something, or that week? A week from now is only the 14th,
Yeah.
so you don't really want to meet next week.
Let's do, that's a good point. Let's do Monday, the 19th. Please get me your questions.
Why don't we try to settle it up on the 19th? That way we get everything done before the P and Z training and before people get out of town.
Yeah, 19th doesn't work.
at
And
3?
I would just say
One, 3?
we have a fully loaded model. Now we might have to load 135 more,
Yep,
right? So
correct.
whatever that 135 does to increase it, right now, we're going to raise the levy 19% higher than it was last year,
I remember last year we went down.
right? So we do not have to have all this decided like in a week. We just need to set that number high enough, and then we can confirm, do we all want to hire these two people? Do we want to do everything that's in here, or don't we? We have to put that number high enough. And then we can continue in the 2 months ahead to.
What time on the 19th?
3 o'clock work for everybody? What?
That's on the 19th, right? Where do you put the connection charges and the user charges for, where do you put the sewer connection charges?
Where do we record them?
Yeah, on the financial statement.
They're
Do you put it
record-
in the sewer fund or the general fund?
They're the sewer fund. They're in the sewer fund as recorded as connection charges.
We have to set it high enough so we.
So this is the revenue, isn't it?
And if you go to page,
On page 27.
if you go to page 11, you can see it, it's listed as,
See, on page 27, I don't see sewer connection charges. You said you collected 240,000 or whatever, and there's only 26,000 in there. That's why I'm just trying to figure out where it is.
June 30th.
Oh, well, okay, June 30th. So you haven't collected, you've collected them after June 30th so far?
that's correct. And we talked earlier, we knew that at July 31st, what we would ultimately collect, and most of those were collected in August. So you'll see those on your August financials.
So do you have a projection, you think 21,000 is accurate for next year?
Don't
based
know.
on what they've,
How many people are going to build a house and connect to it that are on the
no, I mean,
system?
is everybody connecting to the
No, they're not.
project? I thought they all had to, except for the ones that have the last 10,
And we have a
last
number of
10
those.
years of septic system.
And
But
they might connect tomorrow, and they might connect a few years from now. We don't
So
know.
everybody else is connected, not just,
No.
only the, that's what I'm trying to get to, is what we have that is going to be collected next year,
We don't know
or,
at this point. 'Cause they
so,
could connect this year, but we don't know that. And our engineer is trying to figure that out too. So is Pat. I know you just got an estimate on, in an apartment building, what it would cost for connections.
how long do they have before they have to connect? I realize the
Yeah.
new homes that have under 10 years on their septic system are going to be allowed those years, but everybody
Right.
else has got to connect.
And
When
the
do they
ones that
have to connect?
The ones that are required to connect are connected now.
The ones that are required
Correct.
are all connected.
The big ones.
Correct, but we're looking at one, if the apartment building goes in, is $294,000 and $400. If the apartment building goes, that's gonna be their connection fee.
The apartment building, I'm sorry, I'm lost. What
There's
apartment
an
building?
individual looking at building an apartment building, 32 unit.
He talked to us here a couple council meetings.
Oh,
talked to us
yeah.
in
He
July.
connects,
That's, that's
Yep.
pie in the
He
sky.
asked to waive those fees, though, didn't he?
Well, what he asks for and what he gets are two different things. But Mike, I heard on that project, or I read on one of the reports, that it said that there was 2 or 3 connections that were made that are not deep enough and they're worried about them freezing?
Yes, they're like 2 foot deep, 2.5 feet deep.
Are they going to,
66 Marines are a prime example, that's maybe 2 foot deep all the way out. And there's a couple on the other side of the road too that were
Gibbs?
connected that shallow.
Gibbs? Is his name Gibbs?
I'm not sure what name, to be honest with you, but we have it all documented and sketched out and everything, so.
And they're aware of it?
Yep, there
We
were.
try to make everyone aware of it.
Okay, no, that's-
Put styrofoam or not on top of them, they're gonna freeze this winter.
Pat even
That's what I
suggested
needed.
they go
Thank you.
deeper, but they chose not to.
Yeah, that's,
We've had a couple contractors that kept them 6, 8 feet deep, all the way up where they had to come up and tie in. Those will never have a problem.
perfect.
What about health insurance for retirees?
What about?
I got to make a motion to close. Dave's got to leave, so let's close it. Nobody can-
Well,
I'm just
can we
asking
get the vote
questions.
on that mower for the city?
Oh, I make a motion, be allowed to purchase the mower.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? You got to go, you don't have to close it.
Keep us on track,
Is that okay if we close it and so he can go, or are we done then?
I have a 5:44,
The motion
45
to
meeting.
adjourn.
I still have questions.